I want to tell you a story I never thought I'd share. At age 68, I truly believed I was in great shape. I walked every morning, ate my oatmeal, and avoided fried foods. My doctor even praised my blood pressure. I felt proud of my lifestyle. I wasn't taking any major medication, and I thought, this is what healthy aging looks like. Then came a routine scan, a CIMT test. It was just a neck ultrasound. Quick. No radiation. No needles. Just a peek at the arterial plaque in my carotids. I agreed, thinking, just another checkup. Nothing to worry about. After all, I had no chest pain, no shortness of breath, no reason to be concerned. But the results shook me. The technician paused. Then the doctor said, "Harold, you have the arteries of a 73-year-old. I smiled nervously, that can't be right. I'm only 68. But it was right there, my CIMT measured 1.23 millimeters on the left. That's a significant plaque. I walked out of the clinic. But I left my confidence behind. I couldn't sleep for nights. I kept thinking, how can I have arterial plaque when I'm doing everything right? That's when I realized, I was missing something. Something walking and oatmeal couldn't fix. Something deeper than LDL cholesterol. Something silent. Dangerous. And common in seniors. Insulin resistance. Prediabetes. The kind that doesn't show in fasting tests. It was the first time I started questioning everything I thought I knew about health. I realized I had been treating symptoms, not causes. Stay with me till the end of this video. I'll show you my real lab numbers, how I reversed arterial plaque, and a controversial choice I made that got me a lot of criticism, but saved my heart. If you're over 60, this story might just save your life, too. Like this video if you've ever thought you were doing all the right things, and comment below, have you ever had your arteries scanned? Let me tell you the part one never wanted to admit, the part that scared me the most. After that CIMT test, I sat alone in my car with the report in my hands. My intima media thickness wasn't just over the ideal limit, it was way over. 1.23 millimeters on the left, 1.21 millimeters on the right. You know what that means? I had the arteries of a 73-year-old man, even though I was only 68. That's not just a number. That's a 5-year head start, in the wrong direction. And I remember exactly what I thought next. If I'm this bad after years of walking, eating right, avoiding fast food, what about someone who doesn't do any of that? I didn't just feel disappointed. I felt betrayed. Betrayed by what I thought was the right lifestyle. But the scariest thought. I could have already had a heart attack. I could have already died. That Saturday, I did what I always do. I went for a long run through the hills of Lexington, Kentucky. Picture this, golden sunlight, white fences, thoroughbred horses in the distance. But that day felt different. I kept looking at the trees, wondering, would anyone find me if I dropped dead right here? It sounds dramatic. But when you realize you're walking around with unstable arterial plaque, your mind goes to dark places. That's when it hit me. If I had this much plaque despite all my effort, maybe the problem wasn't me. Maybe the problem was the advice I had followed all these years. For decades, we were told low-fat diets were the answer. I followed that. I avoided cholesterol like the plague. But what if the real problem wasn't LDL cholesterol, but blood sugar, inflammation, and yes, insulin resistance? That single thought changed everything. I wasn't going to give up. I had spent 40 years in preventive medicine, teaching others how to avoid disease. It was time to apply it to myself, completely. So when I got home that day, I made a choice. I was going to question everything. Test everything. And change what needed to be changed. If you've ever had a moment where you thought, should be healthy, but something's wrong, please like this video. Share it with someone over 60. And if you're still watching, stay with me. Because what I did next reversed 20 years of arterial aging, and I'll show you the actual before and after CIMT scans. I used to think I was doing everything right. I avoided fast food, I walked every morning, and I kept my weight down. I even took pride in how healthy I was compared to others my age. I followed the common advice: eat clean, stay active, don't smoke, and everything should be fine. But nobody, and I mean nobody, ever told me to check my arteries. Not one doctor, not one friend, not one wellness magazine ever mentioned a simple scan that could reveal the truth inside my body. I had never even heard of a CIMT test until the day my world changed. Here's what most people don't realize: heart attacks don't always come with warning signs. Most of the time, they strike out of nowhere. You don't feel pain. You don't get dizzy. One moment you're fine, the next, your artery is blocked by a clot, and the damage is already done. You see, it's not just about how narrow your arteries are. It's about how fragile the plaque inside them is. Some plaque is stable, it sits there. But soft, inflamed plaque can rupture suddenly, triggering a clot that cuts off blood flow in seconds. And here's the kicker: most standard tests, the ones we rely on, don't detect that risk. Stress tests, cholesterol levels, even calcium scores, they all miss the silent killers. They look for blockages, but not for plaque vulnerability. That's what nearly took my life. The CIMT test, that's carotid intima media thickness, was the first test to show me what I was dealing with. It took 15 minutes. It didn't hurt. No radiation. Just a scan of my neck. But it revealed something that no blood test ever had: I had plaque, and not the harmless kind. Even worse, I had no symptoms. My blood pressure was normal. I was in decent shape. I didn't smoke. I had no chest pain. On paper, I looked like a model senior. But on the inside, I was walking around with time bombs in my arteries. And the worst part? None of my doctors had ever caught it. That day, I changed. I stopped guessing. I stopped assuming that just because I felt okay, I was okay. I started asking different questions. I started demanding different answers. If you're watching this, please, don't make the mistake I did. Don't wait for pain. Don't wait for something to feel off. Because many of the worst cardiovascular events give no signal at all. Get the tests. Ask your doctor about CIMT. Ask about CT angiograms. Ask about plaque stability, not just blockage. You deserve to know what's going on inside your body. If you've done a scan like this, share your story in the comments. If you haven't yet, maybe this is your wake-up call. Maybe this is your second chance, like it was mine. In the next segment, I'll walk you through what caused all that plaque in the first place. And no, it wasn't high-fat food or bacon. It was something much more subtle, and far more common, something that almost everyone over 60 has, but almost no one tests for. Let me start with something that truly shocked me. I had no diabetes, no weight problem, and no symptoms. I walked daily, watched my diet, and stayed away from junk food. I even thought I was doing better than most men my age. But still, I had dangerous plaque in my arteries. And it wasn't because of high cholesterol. It was caused by something I'd never even been told to check: prediabetes. After my CIMT scan revealed arterial plaque, I couldn't stop asking myself why. Why did this happen to me? I didn't smoke. I wasn't obese. I didn't eat fast food or sugary desserts. I thought I was safe. Then I heard about something called the oral glucose tolerance test, or OGTT. Unlike a regular fasting glucose or A1C, this test shows how your body handles sugar after a meal. You drink a sugary liquid, then get your blood sugar checked at intervals. Out of curiosity, and honestly just to prove that I was fine, I took the test. I expected normal results. But at the 30-minute mark, my blood sugar had spiked to over 160 milligrams per deciliter. That result didn't mean I had diabetes. But it meant I had insulin resistance. My body was struggling to return to normal after eating, and that high post-meal sugar was quietly causing inflammation inside my arteries. And that was the missing piece. Every time I ate healthy carbs, whole grain bread, bananas, fruit juice, my blood sugar would surge. I didn't feel it. But my arteries did. And over time, those surges created soft, unstable plaque, the kind that ruptures easily and causes heart attacks. No doctor ever mentioned this. Not once. Everyone told me to watch my cholesterol. But blood sugar was the fire, and I had been fueling it unknowingly. Once I understood that, I made a decision. I stopped eating what I used to think was healthy. I swapped cereal for eggs, toast for avocados, and orange juice for water. I started eating low-carb, and I began tracking my glucose with a simple meter. And guess what? Within months, I felt clearer, lighter, and stronger. But more importantly, my next CIMT scan showed real improvement. The dangerous plaque had shrunk. Not because of medication, but because I found the real cause and stopped feeding it. Insulin resistance is silent. Over 50% of adults over 60 have it, and most don't even know. You won't feel pain. But inside, the damage is real, and it accumulates. If you're over 60, please ask your doctor for an OGTT. Don't rely on A1C alone. You need to know how your body handles sugar after meals, that's where the danger hides. If this surprised you, hit like. And drop a comment if you've had your post-meal glucose checked, or if you're now considering it. Your experience might help someone else. And in the next part, I'll show you exactly what I changed, how I ate, how I moved, and what habits helped restore my arteries, naturally. People often ask me, Harold, how did you do it? How did you reverse your arterial plaque? And I always say the same thing. It wasn't magic. It wasn't luck. And no, it wasn't a miracle pill. It came down to 3 powerful changes, slow, steady, but real. The first and most important change I made was my diet. I used to follow all the classic advice, eat oatmeal, low-fat yogurt, and whole grain cereal. I avoided red meat, butter, and oils. I thought I was doing everything right. But all that time, I was unknowingly feeding the real problem, insulin resistance. After I discovered I had prediabetes, I realized those healthy carbs were spiking my blood sugar after every meal. And that spike was quietly inflaming my arteries, causing plaque to build up between the walls. So I stopped following outdated advice and started listening to my own body. I shifted to a low-carb lifestyle. That doesn't mean no carbs, it means smart carbs. I cut out processed grains, sugary snacks, fruit juices, and most starches. I focused on healthy fats, salmon, olive oil, avocados, and nuts. I ate plenty of leafy greens, eggs, and lean proteins. It wasn't about dieting. It was about removing what was hurting me and adding what could heal. After a few weeks, I noticed real changes. My energy became steady throughout the day. I didn't feel bloated after eating. My weight dropped slightly, but more importantly, I lost visceral fat, the dangerous fat around the organs that contributes to metabolic disease. My belt fit looser, and I felt lighter. Not in pounds, in pressure. The second change was movement. I used to think walking was enough. And don't get me wrong, walking is great. But it wasn't enough to push back decades of damage. I started doing resistance training, simple strength exercises with body weight. At first, just squats using a chair. Then light weights. Then resistance bands. Just 15 minutes a day. No gym. No noise. Just consistency. Then I added HIIT, high-intensity interval training for seniors. That might sound intense, but it's not about running sprints or lifting heavy. For me, it was short bursts of effort, 30 seconds fast walking, 30 seconds slow. Up and down stairs. A few jumping jacks. Just enough to wake up my muscles and tell my body, stay alive, stay sharp. This kind of training helped lower my post-meal blood sugar spikes, built muscle, and boosted my metabolism. More muscle means more glucose burning, even at rest. And better glucose control means less plaque. But the third change was deeper, a shift in how I saw myself. I stopped trying to be perfect. For decades, I thought health was about discipline and extremes. But I was wrong. It's about small, repeatable actions. Done consistently. I gave myself permission to fail some days, and to try again the next. I stopped judging my worth by the scale. I started measuring success by how I felt, how I moved, and how well I slept. Over time, those tiny steps became a lifestyle. Not a diet. Not a workout routine. But a way of living that aligned with what my body needed. And the results came. Slowly. Quietly. Then all at once. My CIMT scan, 1 year after starting these changes, showed something I never thought I'd see. My arterial plaque had decreased. My arteries, once inflamed and aged like a 73-year-old's, were now reading more like a healthy 52-year-old's. I didn't just stop the damage. I reversed it. And I'm not saying this to brag. I'm saying it because if I can do it, anyone can. I didn't have a trainer. I didn't buy supplements or meal plans. I just listened to my body, to science, and to the pain I didn't want to feel anymore. If you've ever felt overwhelmed trying to be perfectly healthy, I've been there. Hit that like button if this resonates with you. You don't need to be perfect. You need progress. And if you've made even one small change lately, walking more, drinking less soda, sleeping better, leave a comment. I want to celebrate with you. Because these changes saved my life. And in the next segment, I'll tell you about the hardest decision I had to make. A decision that went against everything I believed, but helped me keep going. For years, I refused all medication. I believed lifestyle was enough. But when I looked deeper, I made one surprising decision, and I'm glad I did. There was one belief I held onto for most of my adult life: I don't want to take medication. Not now. Not ever. I used to say, if I eat right, sleep well, and move my body, I shouldn't need pills. And for a long time, I was proud of that. I wore it like a badge of honor. No statins, no blood pressure meds, no aspirin. I saw my friends line up for prescriptions and thought, that won't be me. But then something changed. Despite all my efforts, changing my diet, improving my blood sugar, reversing arterial plaque, walking daily, lifting weights, I hit a wall. My inflammation markers were still slightly elevated. My CIMT score had improved, yes, but not enough. I wanted to pretend I was in the clear. But the data said otherwise. And it scared me. So I sat down with my doctor. Not to argue, but to understand. I asked questions. I brought my scan results, my food logs, and my glucose tracker. We looked at it all. And that's when he said something I'll never forget. Harold, lifestyle is powerful. But sometimes, it's not enough to erase decades of damage. That's when I began to reconsider. We didn't talk about high-dose statins or aggressive medication. Instead, we looked at baby aspirin, magnesium, and the possibility of a low-dose statin, not for cholesterol, but for reducing arterial inflammation. I also learned about NMR lipoprotein testing, which looks deeper than standard cholesterol panels. It showed I still had elevated small LDL particles, the most dangerous kind. Suddenly, I realized, this isn't about pride. It's about protection. So, after much thought, I agreed to a minimal, targeted protocol, not forever, but as part of my healing. I started with baby aspirin, added vitamin D, optimized my omega-3 levels, and tracked everything. And within 6 months, the changes were incredible. My inflammatory markers dropped. My CIMT showed even further improvement. Most importantly, I felt more confident, not because of the pills, but because I wasn't stuck in dogma anymore. I learned that medication isn't a failure. It's a tool, one of many. And when used wisely, with intention, and guided by data, it can work with your lifestyle, not against it. If you're over 60, please don't make decisions based on fear or pride like I did. Make decisions based on your body, your labs, your real risks. If you've ever hesitated to take a pill because you didn't want to be dependent, I get it. But ask yourself, what matters more, image or impact? Comment below, have you ever made peace with a medication that once scared you? Your story might help someone else. And if you stayed with me through this whole journey, from diet to exercise to mindset to medicine, thank you. This isn't the end. It's just the beginning of a new chapter. Subscribe if you want to keep learning with me, Harold Bennett, just a regular man with a not-so-regular heart.